Welcome to 5-Round MMA podcast number 16. 5-Round MMA is back, and on this edition, we have a full preview of UFC 158, St-Pierre versus Diaz. We also take a look back at the wild conference call between GSP and Diaz. Was it real or all pre-fight hype? Please welcome Alex Ramirez and Albert Cita.
Thank you very much, our producer Camozzi. Probably the biggest drama surrounding a UFC fight in a while, right, Albert?
Yeah, but I think it was pre-fight hype.
Pre-fight hype, got to sell those tickets, man, but we'll get to that a little later on. As of right now, Guillermo, what do you got for latest news and headlines?
John Fitch officially signs with World Series of Fighting.
And this comes after Bellator said no, right? We're going to pass on John Finch.
Yeah, Bellator's pretty much booked for the whole year, so they didn't want to take up anybody new until next season.
I think that says a lot for Bellator too. Like, no, we're going to pass up on the UFC kind of
respect
but,
out of them that they didn't bend over and part the seas for these UFC fighters.
That's what Strikeforce and everybody else did, right?
Yep.
So World Series of Fighting announcement coming soon, I suppose.
Overeem out against JDS with the tear in his quad. Now Mark Hunt is in.
Oh, yeah. The Samoan,
Super
Australian. What I think he's named after the Super Saiyans. Heck yeah, dog. I can't wait to see Mark Hunt versus JDS.
Yeah, it should be a fun fight.
Yeah. The other good thing is you stop that collision of gods walking around men. I call Tud Duffy and Mark Hunt facing each other.
So that's going to be out of the way now. Maybe maybe Overeem and Duffy, maybe?
Ooh, I want to see that rematch so bad.
You know, Tud Duffy
ain't going to play no jokes, dog. If Overeem thought Bigfoot punched hard, imagine getting hit by like a semi-truck, because that's Tud Duffy.
Semi-truck.
And the last news, this should be a fun one for you guys. Michael Bisping still disrespecting Dan Henderson. He has nothing without the H-bomb.
Okay, that's like saying like a fighter's nothing without his jiu-jitsu. A fighter's nothing without his kicks, his legs, his arms.
Bisping is just jealous because literally Dan Henderson has a signature move. What does Bisping have that signature? What do you have? Count the Bisping right hook, or what is that?
The Bisping, I'll take you to decision.
Yeah, exactly. Just hating marketability. Hendo. Dan Henderson is a brand name. Michael Bisping's not. Still bitter about being knocked out at UFC 100, I think. But is that it for the latest news and headlines?
Yeah, that's it for today.
All right, so stick around. We're going to have a preview of UFC 158 and also go over that wild conference call. A lot of F-bombs dropped on that one, right, Albert?
F-bomb this, F-bomb that.
All right, guys, stick around. All right, everybody. If you like what you hear out there and want to hear more of it, make sure to follow us on Twitter at 5RoundMMA and always check out the website, 5RoundMMA.com. 5-Round MMA is brought to you by SportsSceneTV.net. Get all your prep school sports information at SportsSceneTV.net. 5-Round MMA is brought to you by True Athletes Training Systems. Unlock your inner athlete at TrueAthletes.com.
Now it's time for the conference call heard around the world.
Conference call with UFC 158, which I think was taken over by Nick Diaz and all of
his crying, you can say?
Yeah, perfect word. But on the line, we have an actual Nick Diaz fan.
And we did not have to go all the way to Stockton to get him.
Yeah, well, he's a Nick Diaz fan, Nate Diaz fan, Jake Shields fan, Gilbert Melendez fan, all them boys in Stockton. He reps some hardcore. Is that right, Jason? Jason Hendricks?
Yeah, you got it right. Nate Diaz and Nick Diaz.
No love for Jake Shields? Gilbert Melendez? Cesar Gracie?
Nah, no love for Jake Shields, but yeah, Gilbert Melendez, El Nino, my boy. He's coming on the scene and beyond.
What about all the cows in Stockton? You love them too?
Nah.
So obviously a lot was said between Nick Diaz and GSP. We got a couple quotes here. We want you to give your thoughts. We want to hear a true Nick Diaz fan convey the emotions that Nick has so hard explaining himself. That's why he curses so much and just so angry. Guillermo, what's the first quote you got from Nick Diaz?
I'd like to be thought of someone who keeps it real, he said. I don't like that I'm made out to be this evil person who needs to be shot down and conquered. If anything, I'm the superhero coming in with this anti-BS.
Says the guy that's always saying, come at me, George. Where you at, George?
Flipping off the camera.
Yeah.
Pushing cameramen out the way.
I think he's asking for it. So what's the point?
Jason, are you there?
He's the voice of the unspoken. He's the voice of the bullied. He may be a bully now, but I guarantee you back in the day, that guy probably got beat up so bad. And then Cesar Gracie found him, and he said, "Hey, kid, you want to learn some jiu-jitsu?" And he said, "Hey, sure, man." And then him and Nate went over there, started throwing it down. And now Dana White should be thinking his lucky stars that he was bullied, because he's going to make him $1 billion on
I can also
Saturday.
imagine that. I can imagine Nick Diaz sitting by himself in the lunchroom.
I can guarantee you it was him and his brother going around trying to punk all the kids in school.
With their chest out.
Yeah, with their chest up. Me and my brother going to beat both you guys up right now.
That's no different than you and Guillermo bullying me when we have the fights. You guys want to gang up on me and stuff. I'm just trying to represent for 209 also. Okay, Nick Diaz is a fighter. GSP is a dancer. That fool does not belong in the ring. He should be in a wrestling tournament somewhere. He got knocked out by Matt Serra. You don't think Nick Diaz is going to knock him out if he got knocked out by Matt Serra?
No, because the only person Diaz has ever knocked down in his life is
Paul Daly.
Not even. I mean, that was
Robbie Lawler.
That was cool. Robbie Lawler.
Right, yeah. Robbie Lawler, who just knocked out Josh Koscheck. Thank you very
It was
much.
a TKO, bro.
Speaking to your GS dancing point, we actually have another quote from Nick Diaz during the press conference about GSP's exact fighting style.
This is exactly what Nick Diaz said. People want to see real skill level, real jiu-jitsu, real boxing, put together and mixed up. They want to see mixed martial arts. They don't want to see 5 minutes of holding.
I don't think Nick knows that wrestling is part of mixed martial arts. And,
oh, Lord.
And come on, GSP threw beautiful jabs at Josh Koscheck, opening up that eye. Come on, dog.
But my thing is, his best friend.
Nick Diaz is the best boxer in MMA. That's how fighting started, was with boxing. Boxing came before MMA. So Nick Diaz is a true pioneer because he's bringing back boxing. He has the best jab. You're going to tell me GSP has a better jab than Nick Diaz? You're crazy.
First of all,
just look at Josh Koscheck's eye.
First of all, fighting didn't start with boxing. It started back with the Greeks wrestling each other. Come on now.
If GSP is dumb enough to take to the fight to the ground, Nick Diaz will choke him out in about 5 seconds. Nick Diaz will own him anywhere in that fight unless he gets the takedown, and then we know how that's going to go. 25 minutes of laying on somebody, slapping him, giving him a little kiss on the cheek. It's going to be whack.
Just
but
like
Nick Diaz is going to catch him.
Cesar Gracie Jake Shields fight, correct? 25 minutes.
We're not talking about Jake Shields.
But why is he so hypercritical of GSP while his best friend, his training partner, does the exact same thing? Actually, what do you see, Albert? He starts to fight on his knees, right?
Yeah, he'll crawl around the whole octagon on his knees just to get that takedown.
Come on now.
Did you guys call me to talk about my boy Nick Diaz, or did you call me to talk about Jake Shields?
All right, good point.
Talk about Nick Diaz.
Good point.
Okay, now it's time for the quote of the conference call. This is from George St-Pierre. If you are where you are and I am where I am, it's your fault because you didn't succeed.
And this is a statement from Nick Diaz calling, basically, and just to paraphrase, calling GSP a pampered baby. I'm correct? I'm pretty sure the language is there.
It was around there.
What's the point of that comment? That's just GSP proving that he's scared to talk about the actual fight. For the last 2 years, Nick Diaz has been calling him out. Where you at, George? Where you at, George? And George just sits there with all the fine girls around him saying, "Oh, I don't want none of that guy." And then he goes in the ring. He doesn't even want to go in the ring with him. He's scared to death. He only brings up stuff like that. He doesn't bring up the actual fighting.
Well, the reason why it took Nick Diaz so long to get to this point was because he was too busy smoking and getting losing records in his fights.
And not showing up to press conferences either.
Yeah,
so
you got to kind of have to show up.
Nick Diaz has a wicked form of glaucoma. Leave him alone, right?
What's that saying go? 8% of it is just showing up.
Well, yeah.
That means that Nick Diaz has been filling his whole life 80% of the time.
GSP hasn't shown up for a fight in like 10 years.
Oh, come on now. He tried to finish.
Dude, he lays on you. I could go in there and get laid on for 25 minutes to get paid $5 million.
That'd be a sweet gig, too. If you could work that out, I say go for it, Jason.
I mean, I'd tap out as soon as he put hands on me, but I'd still lay there for 25 minutes.
All right, real quick, closing remarks, Jason.
Or better yet, what do you got for your picks? Who do you got, Ellenberger or Marquardt?
I got Marquardt only because I feel like that Tariq Seferdine fight was just kind of a blip on the radar. I like Nate Marquardt.
All right, what about Carlos Condit and Johnny Hendricks?
Johny Hendricks is an emerging superstar, and he has the greatest last name in the history of MMA.
Okay. And it's safe to assume that you have GSP over Nick Diaz, right?
Negative, Ghost Rider. I have Nick Diaz, violent TKO, round 2, baby.
Violent
209
TKO.
representing.
209 representing. All right, guys, you heard it there from a true 209 Stockton,
baby.
Cow loving, Nick Diaz loving fan right there.
Don't be scared, homie.
All right, thanks, Jason.
Later, guys.
All right, everybody. If you like what you hear out there and want to hear more of it, make sure to follow us on Twitter at FiveRoundMMA and always check out the website, FiveRoundMMA.com. 5RoundMMA is brought to you by SportsScene.tv.net. Get all your prep school sports information at SportsScene.tv.net. 5RoundMMA is brought to you by True Athletes Training Systems. Unlock your inner athlete at TrueAthletes.com.
There's a storm coming to Montreal. Now it's time to preview UFC 158, St-Pierre versus Diaz.
Yeah, storm of smack talk and Diaz-isms, I believe, right? So this card was pretty much known for a welterweight showdown. Rory McDonald got hurt, pulled out, so they did some shuffling around. But before the big welterweights go down, we have actually a lightweight bout and a middleweight bout. The lightweight bout will be between Colin Fletcher and Mike Ricci. Albert, what do you think about that bout?
I think it's going to be a good bout because, one, if we don't get Rory McDonald, we get the next best thing. His best friend, Mike Ricci from the TriStar Modeling Agency.
Both their name now, the modeling agency?
Yeah, that's their new name. They're both coming off of a loss because they're both runner-ups from their Tough Enough final. But it should be a good fight. I mean, Colin Fletcher only has 2 losses in his books, and Mike Ricci has 3 losses, one being to Pat Curran, so you can't get mad at that. So it should be good. It pretty much is. I think this fight's going to show who's the future of the lightweight division that's going to slowly climb it. And, of course, I'm thinking it's going to be Mike Ricci because that modeling agency, they don't just pick the faces. They pick the talent.
Get their hands on with the faces, too, right? And after that, we got the middleweight bout. Nick Ring against Chris Camozzi.
Yeah, and that's actually going to be a good fight, too. Nick Ring's only loss comes to Tim Boetsch. You can't get mad at that. I mean, Tim Boetsch, he's a big middleweight. So that should be interesting. He's the guy that defeated Court McGee and made him drop to welterweight.
Yeah.
And then you got Chris, who is going on a vicious tear. He's in a 3-fight win streak. His last win against Louise Kane. It should be a good fight. I think this is another one where whoever wins can now challenge the other 85ers because most of the top 3 already fought each other. So this way you introduce some new blood, maybe mix them up a little bit.
Yeah, I think a desperate injection of blood for the middleweight division. But then moving on, we actually go into the meat of the pay-per-view, the big welterweight showdowns, who I think Jake Ellenberger might be the luckiest man on the card because he was originally scheduled to face Johny Hendricks.
Yeah.
And now, after Rory McDonald got injured, Hendricks got bumped up to the co-main event to face Carlos Condit, and now Nate Marquardt steps in against Ellenberger. What are your thoughts on the original matchup and the replacement matchup?
Well, I think this is a big break for him. But even though it's a big break, I mean, he still has a tough opponent in Nate Marquardt. It's not a main event, so Nate Marquardt isn't going to choke.
He won't choke.
Yeah, so he better watch out. If it was a main event, I think Jake Ellenberger should have been a little bit more relaxed, but he should be very worried about Nate Marquardt.
Yeah, I think Marquardt, I think he has a lot to prove in the welterweight division. He dropped down, thought he was going to take over in the UFC, got cut, went to Strikeforce.
He knows he's 1 or 2 losses away from going back where he was at.
Yeah, I think that loss to Tariq Stephanie really set him back.
Yeah, so he knows this is all these fights are make or break for him.
Yeah, and Ellenberger's trying to get back on track.
Yeah, but I think if Ellenberger loses, he's still
He'll be
pretty
all right.
much safe. Yeah.
And then the co-main event, Carlos Condit against Johny Hendricks, very different opponent, I think, from Rory McDonald.
Yeah.
So it should be a different fight.
Yeah, and this one, it can go either way. I mean, all you got to do is avoid that big hammer and...
It's kind of like the crisp, diverse stand-up game of Carlos Condit against basically the one-punch knockout power in wrestling of Johny Hendricks, right?
Yeah, because Rory McDonald and Carlos Condit were kind of similar, but at being both good athletes and strikers, and this one, I mean, it's pretty much Johny Hendricks going to close the distance and unleash what he calls a hammer.
It's like we all know what's coming, right?
Yeah.
Just got to avoid it.
You know it's coming, but you can't move out of the way.
You can't stop it. And then, of course, the big one, The welterweight championship, George St-Pierre against Nick Diaz, which amid a ton of controversy, was canceled. Back on during the prime time, they couldn't find Nick Diaz and stuff like that.
Yeah, usually I don't go for GSP, but I'm gonna enjoy all 5 rounds of GSP on top of him and doing whatever he pleases to do with Nick Diaz.
Hey, come on, man! You didn't hear the press conference? Why does Nick Diaz deserve to get beat up for, man? He didn't do nothing to nobody.
Except talk smack.
But yeah, I think one of the things I think GSP has to finish this fight. I think no more decisions, because that's his biggest criticism is that he doesn't finish the fight, and he should have no lack of motivation to finish this fight against all the smack talk.
How big would it be if he finishes him by submission?
Yeah, Nick Diaz prides himself being a jiu-jitsu practitioner, and then maybe send a little statement that Gracie Jiu-Jitsu ain't nothing, man.
Or how about we go a little bit further and say that GSP accepts that challenge. All right, I won't take it to the ground, and I'll show you I'm a better boxer.
So basically, any way GSP finishes, you're happy with it, right? But yeah, to me, I think in order for this fight to be successful for GSP, he has to finish. And Nick Diaz, if he wins, honestly, I think it's a big upset, a huge upset, and he'll be champion, which is basically all the big bucks, what he wants, right? The big bucks, the commercials, the endorsements, the management, everything he said at the press conference will come his way if he could beat GSP. But
and if you want, Nick, you can email us at FiveRoundMMA at gmail.com, and I will let you know how to get a financial advisor. I will let you know how to get some good management, and I will let you know how to get an assistant, bro. Hit me up.
You got that? We should be hearing from Nick Diaz real soon. Want to do staff picks? Let's do staff picks.
All right, let's start off with Colin Fletcher versus Mike Ricci.
I'm going to take your advice. I got Mike Ricci. Gamma, who do you got?
It's a tri-star night. I got Mike Ricci.
And Albert, you obviously got
Of course, I got my boy Mike Ricci.
Middleweight bout, Nick Ring against Chris Camozzi. Albert, who do you got?
I got Nick Ring in this one, actually.
Pulling for upset?
Yep.
I think the same. I think Nick Ring will come out. Gamma, who do you got?
I got Nick Ring as well.
And the big welterweight, one of the big ones, Jake Ellenberger against Nate Marquardt. Gamma, who do you got?
I got Nate Marquardt making a statement.
Ooh, Albert, who do you got?
Well, I got the same thing. I think Nate Marquardt's going to put a big stamp on here and say, look, listen, I don't deserve to be cut.
You know, I think the same thing. I think Ellenberger's kind of not ready for Nate Marquardt. I think he's a league striker.
Yeah.
Next, got Carlos Condit against Johny Hendricks. Albert, who do you got on that one?
I got the Diesel himself, Johny Hendricks.
Ooh, by knockout or what?
By knockout, first round, close to the distance, just like you did with Catman.
Ooh, Grandma, who do you got?
I got Carlos Condit. I feel everybody underestimates him, and he always brings it. So, Carlos Condit.
Yeah, no, I have to agree with Grandma on this one. I think his Nick Diaz fight proved that he could stick to a game plan and keep moving and keep, stay away from that.
Game plans go out the window once you get hit in the face, though.
True. We'll find out. And the big one, the welterweight championship, George St-Pierre against Nick Diaz. Albert, who do you got?
I got GSP winning in the stand-up, on the ground, in jiu-jitsu, and Muay Thai, and marbles. I got GSP winning in all the categories.
Grandma, who do you got?
I got GSP. I feel he's going to dominate this fight.
Yeah, I think a motivated GSP is always a scary one. I think he'll win. I think he'll go to decision. I don't think he'll finish the fight, but he's still champion nonetheless. So that's it for today. Make sure you guys check back next week where we will have a full reaction and review of UFC 158. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at FiveRoundMMA. Make sure to subscribe to us on iTunes and YouTube. And always check out the website, FiveRoundMMA.com, which has a buttload of more content. Right, Albert?
Yep. You can check out our latest interview with CEO of Bellator MMA, Bjorn. You can also check out new coming UFC fighter, Larkin. So go to FiveRoundMMA.com. Check out those interviews. Real quick, I want to say thank you to our executive producer, Anthony Siriana, our producer, Guillermo Cita, our sound engineer, Ali. They call him, let's hit that trolley.
I like how his nickname gets longer and longer each week, doesn't it?
Well, until he gives me sound effects, it's going to keep getting longer and longer and longer. Thanks, everyone, for listening.
All right, thanks, guys.